What if the price of greed wasn't just your wealth, but your soul? In Monsters, A New Woman, a wife's ruthless pursuit of control over her dying husband's fortune leads her down a dark, supernatural path where the consequences are far worse than she ever imagined. Buckle in, because this isn't just a story about money, it's a haunting reminder of what happens when selfishness goes unchecked. In tonight's episode, Carol, a greedy wife, is determined to seize control of her husband's vast estate. With their husband on his deathbed, Carol plans to sell his buildings, which house poor tenants, to make herself even wealthier. Cold and calculating, she manipulates her ailing husband, desperate for the power to control his assets and secure her future. But the strange doctor overseeing her husband's care has other plans. Seeing through Carol's selfish motives, the doctor decides to intervene. Inspired by A Christmas Carol, he uses supernatural methods to force Carol to confront the consequences of her greed. Through disturbing visions, she's shown a nightmarish future, where her actions lead to ruin not just for the tenant she seeks to exploit, but for herself as well. The doctor's scare tactics deliver a dark moral lesson. As Carol is pushed to reckon with her choices, she begins to realize the personal cost of her obsession with wealth and power. But by then, it may be far too late to undo the damages she's caused. This episode is a chilling exploration of greed and the harsh consequences of a life spent pursuing selfish desires. Buddhism teaches that desire and attachment are the root causes of suffering. Sheila's obsessive ambition to inherit her husband's wealth and sell his homeless shelter is driven by a profound attachment to material things and the belief that they can provide lasting satisfaction. According to the Buddhist principle of craving or thirst, Sheila is trapped in an endless cycle of desire. She believes that wealth and luxury will provide her with happiness and permanence in a world characterized by impermanence, and her pursuit of stability through material possessions only deepens her suffering. In Buddhist philosophy, the self is seen as an illusion, a collection of ever-changing elements that we mistakenly treat as fixed and independent. Sheila's attempt to control her husband's life and death by pushing him to die so she can claim his fortune are rooted in the false belief that she can shape her destiny and secure permanence through forceful actions. The concept of anatta suggests that by clinging to a fixed self, Sheila perpetuates her own suffering. She refuses to accept the impermanence of life, instead seeking to control the uncontrollable, which ultimately leads to her downfall. Karma, or the law of cause and effect, plays a pivotal role in Sheila's transformation. In Buddhist thought, actions, words, and thoughts all have consequences that shape future experiences. Sheila's unethical choices, her manipulative marriage, her betrayal of her husband's nephew, and her plan to profit off the homeless shelter set in motion a chain of karmic events that lead to her downfall. In Buddhism, these actions are often seen as leading to suffering, and Sheila's greed will inevitably result in her experiencing the same suffering she has inflicted on others. Her karmic retribution echoes the Buddhist understanding that harmful actions come back to haunt the individual. In contrast to Sheila's greed is the nephew, who embodies the Buddhist virtues of compassion and generosity. He wants to preserve the homeless shelter, seeing its purpose as selfless and beneficial to society. From a Buddhist perspective, the nephew's actions reflect an understanding of the interconnectedness of all beings, where his well-being is linked to the well-being of others. In his desire to protect the shelter, he is acting in accordance with the aspiration to alleviate the suffering of others. His actions serve as a stark contrast to Sheila's selfishness. And reinforce the Buddhist teachings on generosity as a path to liberation. Buddhism's concept of karma and rebirth offers a rich framework for understanding the episode's supernatural twist. Sheila, in her quest for wealth, makes a deal that ultimately shifts her fate, trapping her in the consequences of her actions. This twist mirrors the Buddhist belief in samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. Just as one's actions shape their future lives, Sheila's actions in her current life shape her karmic fate. Her transition into her husband's weakened state symbolizes the rebirth process, where one's past deeds dictate the circumstances of their next life. In Sheila's case, her attachment to wealth and status leads to a rebirth in a less desirable form, reflecting the Buddhist idea that attachment binds us to the cycle of suffering. The core of Sheila's suffering stems from her attachment to material wealth. Buddhist philosophy asserts that attachment is one of the primary causes of suffering. Sheila believes that wealth and possessions will bring her happiness and security, yet these very attachments prevent her from attaining true peace. When the supernatural forces take control of her fate, Sheila is stripped of everything she thought would bring her happiness. This echoes the Buddhist teaching that attachment to the material world can only lead to more suffering. Sheila's downfall serves as a cautionary tale against the pursuit of fleeting pleasures at the expense of spiritual fulfillment. The Buddhist concept of impermanence holds that all phenomena are in a constant state of flux and attachment to anything, whether it be wealth, status, or relationships. It leads to suffering. Sheila's desperate need to secure her future through control and manipulation directly contradicts the Buddhist understanding of impermanence. Her attachment to her husband's fortune and the homeless shelter blinds her to the inevitable nature of change. Just as she tries to impose permanence on the transient, the universe responds with a cosmic twist, showing her that nothing is truly permanent. Sheila's tragic fate highlights what happens when you cling to something that is always subject to change. Despite Sheila's greed and manipulations, her eventual transformation offers a glimmer of Buddhist redemption. In the Buddhist tradition, awakening, or nirvana, is the cessation of suffering, a state achieved through the release of attachments and desires. Although Sheila is punished for her actions, her karmic journey could be seen as a moment of potential awakening. If she were to accept her fate and relinquish her attachment to control and material wealth, she might gain insight into the nature of impermanence and begin the path toward liberation. Her punishment may in the end offer the opportunity for spiritual awakening, which is a central theme in Buddhism. Suffering can lead to insight and eventual liberation. In conclusion, A New Woman serves as a rich narrative for exploring Buddhist principles, particularly the interplay between greed, attachment, karma, and impermanence. Sheila's downfall is a direct result of her attachment to material wealth and her refusal to acknowledge the impermanent nature of life. Through her actions and ultimate transformation, the episode underscores the Buddhist teachings on the futility of clinging to the transient world and the importance of compassion, generosity, and detachment. In the end, Sheila's fate is a powerful reminder that true peace and happiness come not from material wealth, but from releasing attachments and embracing the impermanence of all things. Watch this video next.